Hello, everyone. I'm going to call the executive committee to order at 10:09 a.m. It is, I just about said Friday. That's kind of where my mind is, but it is Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. And before we get started, I'd just like to acknowledge that today I'm calling in, or I'm situated on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, and Katzie nations. And this is colonially known as Burnaby Mountain. I'm in the Student Union building today. And this is the location where we would be doing our work in person, if not for COVID-19, and where we, in large part, will be doing our work in just a week's time. And I think this is important to recognize, especially now as we're, still calling in virtually for the majority, and recognizing that because this is a virtual meeting, that we're all situated on different territories at this time. So we really need to be taking an opportunity to recognize the nations whose land we're currently situated on belongs to, and how we play a role in these colonial structures that we're all navigating, and understanding how we can use that in standing in solidarity with Indigenous communities in any way possible, whether we're elected student representatives, staff, or just generally settlers on these lands, and centering that knowledge. And we'll begin our meeting today with the roll call of attendance as per usual. And so if you can please share your name, pronouns, and access needs when I call on your position. And yeah, we'll begin with that. I'll begin with myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabe Leosis. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the executive committee chair, and my access needs are met. And we'll move on to VP Events and Student Affairs. I'm not sure if Jess is on her way. I did not receive regrets from her, but let's hope that she logs in at some point. We'll move on to VP External and Community Affairs.
Hi, it's Matt. My pronouns are he, him, his, and my accessibility needs are met.
Thanks, Matt. VP Equity and Sustainability.
Hey everyone, my name's Marie. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and my access needs are met.
Thank you. VP Finance and Services.
Hi everyone, my name is Almas and my pronouns are she, her, and my access needs are met too. Thank you.
Thank you. VP Internal and Organizational Development.
Hi everyone. So Corbett, pronouns are he, him, his. Access needs are met. Sorry, did I? Yeah, okay. Access needs, I am on my home computer, so I have no camera, and I have to leave at 11 a.m. to go to some more member services, administrative assistant interviews.
No worries, Corbett. Thank you. And our VP University and Academic Affairs is not joining us today as they are on a leave of absence currently. We'll move on to society staff. Operations organizer is not joining us today. Board organizer is not here. Maybe she is joining us. And we'll move on to administrative assistant.
Hi everyone, my name is Ifra. My pronouns are she, her, hers. All my access needs are met.
Thank you. And we have completed the roll call of attendance unless anyone has been missed. I don't think so. We're a small group today. And we will move on then to item number 4, which is consent agenda. However, there is nothing under the consent agenda today. So we will actually move on from section 4 of the agenda today into section 5, which is adoption of the agenda. And I'll read section 5.1 out. And of course, there was an agenda circulated, so hopefully everyone has access to that. I'll read the motion now. Be it resolved to adopt the agenda as presented. Do I have a mover for the motion?
Marie.
Marie moves. Is there a seconder?
Matt?
Matt seconds.
Seconds.
Sorry, I saw you on mute, but I didn't hear the Matt second. So thank you, Matt. Are there any amendments to today's agenda? I have one, and I sent this email out about like half an hour ago, so my apologies, but I will paste the motion in the chat that I would like to add onto today's agenda. Oh, well, before I do that, I'd actually like to, no, backing up. I would like to add this motion to the agenda. It's in the chat. It's titled Staff Office Reallocation, Delegated Power to Staff Liaison Officers. And the motion has been pasted in the chat. Are there any other motion or any other amendments to today's agenda? Okay, well, seeing as there was only one amendment put forward, and that was me, I will move to amend the agenda to include the motion in the, oh, JK. Matt, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, apologies. Are you able to link the agenda?
Does somebody have quick access to the agenda that could just be pasted into the chat? If not, we can take a moment now to do that, or I can take a moment now to do that. One moment. Okay, Matt, I'm just putting it in the chat now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I'm checking my email. I didn't receive anything.
Oh, that's strange. Okay. It's in the chat there now. Did you want to take just like 5 seconds to look it over? Really? Did no one else receive it?
Yeah, I did not receive it either.
Yeah, I was like, am I tired? Is it still Monday or what is going on?
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm looking at the email thread now, and it looks like it was sent to me, the Peak, and FWA, but the exec committee mail list was missed. So it looks like it was just an administrative error there. We can take a couple of minutes then to just review the contents of the agenda. Luckily, most of today's items don't require thorough overview. There wasn't really any attachments or anything. So take 5 minutes or even like 3 minutes to look over the agenda. And you can just type in the chat done when you're done looking it over. And then once that's completed, we can move on with looking over the agenda, or approving the agenda rather. Matt and Almas, have you had a chance to look over the agenda?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. You,
Just going to see my email.
sure. It's in the chat as well, Almas.
Yeah, it'll download as a PDF.
Okay, checking in. How are we? Perfect. So I'll just repeat again what I wanted to add. So if you scroll up in the chat, I wanted to add the motion title Staff Office Reallocation, Delegated Power to Staff Liaison Officers, as this would become motion 7.3. Is there any amendments to the agenda that folks would like to make based on the agenda that was circulated? Matt, you may go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add a motion to the agenda for, what was it? Supporting, I'll type it all in the chat, but it's supporting National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And so, do you want me just to type it out?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll probably have to do it in port. 2 seconds, and I'll add it in the chat.
Sounds good. We'll just wait a second, Matt, for you to add that in the chat, and then we'll go ahead and make the amendment. I guess while we're waiting for that, was there anything else to add onto today's meeting? Almas?
Yeah, so I was reading the 7.2 about the employer rep replacement. So I think in the old, according to our old discussion, it was a slash thing so that we put both names there. And in case I'm not able to attend any meeting, or if I feel like it's getting too much, given that I'm on 2 other committees, we will have both names listed and either of us can go. So I think this is not the same as what we discussed.
So, okay, my understanding of this was, yeah, you were appointed as an employer rep, and so I guess first of all, my understanding of it was that Aisha was going to attend the meetings for the first little bit, and then you were going to attend if you had the capacity after a while.
Yeah, because by then we would have hired the building assistants, and I would have probably be done by the other committee that I'm on.
Okay, so you
Because
still would like to be on.
I still didn't have like a timeline of the other committee. So I was like, let's put it as a slash. And I think there was something that we came to where we listed 3 employer reps. And then we decided, well, we already have somebody there in case I cannot make it.
Okay. Okay, so then maybe this was just added as a misunderstanding then. Okay, cool. I guess we can just remove that from the agenda then, Almas. Guess we don't need it.
I'm not sure because it also says that they're wanting to remove Aisha from the alternate employer rep, whereas I'm not sure if she requested that.
Yeah, this motion is coming as an attempt to bring counselors in and give them experience in hiring committees and to take some of the burden off of Aisha, because right now Aisha is on like 6 hiring committees. So I think that was the intention behind this motion. It was to take the burden off of Aisha right now. Yeah.
I think it's okay with me as long as they're like sort of there with me and not replacing me. Because I still am hopeful that I will be able to make it. If I'm not, yeah, makes sense to have somebody already listed so that we're not going through the whole process of reaching out to the union and telling them, well, we have an alternate person who will now be attending stuff. But I like the idea of having just me and a third person listed so that in case they can go and attend the couple of meetings that I might not be able to, or if I completely am not able to take on once like things start unfolding. So
Okay.
whether it's Aisha
So
or counselor, I'm okay.
Okay, perfect. So I think we can honestly just strike 7.2 from the agenda then, as I don't think we need to appoint someone else. We already have Aisha as an alternate, and Amos, you've expressed that you will have capacity for it once the BAs kind of wind down. So we'll strike this from the agenda and keep it as is.
And I think we can also discuss it later if something changes, and I can tell you beforehand if I need some kind of help or if something changes. And in case it does, we still have somebody who can represent on our behalf as a replacement.
Perfect. Thanks, Amos. Matt, I see your motion is in the chat, so we will add this as the motion is titled Supporting National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We'll add this to the agenda. So is this everything today? Okay, I'll move to amend the agenda to include this batch of amendments. So just to clarify, we're adding the motion titled Staff Office Reallocation Power for SLOs, Supporting National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and striking the motion titled Digital Media Content Creator Hiring Committee Appointment. I will move to make this amendment. Would anyone like to second? Matt seconds. Are there any questions or comments on the amendments on the floor? Seeing none, we'll put the amendment to a vote. All those in favor of the amendment to the main motion seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to vote against or abstain, please use the Zoom raise hand feature. All right, the amendment to the main motion is carried. We'll go back to the main motion now, which reads, be it resolved to adopt the agenda as amended. Are there any last considerations on the main motion before we put it to a vote? All right, so we'll put this one to a vote then. All those in favor, seeking unanimous consent. If you would like to vote against or abstain, please raise your hand. All right, carried unanimously. We'll move then to section number 6 of today's agenda, which is 6.1, hiring committee updates, and this was submitted by myself. And as per usual, I wanted to use this opportunity in our meeting to discuss where each hiring committee is and in terms of the hiring process and how all of our hiring committees that are ongoing are progressing. And so I'll just move through I'll call on each individual executive member here today, and we can discuss where we are at in our respective hiring committees. I'll begin with myself. The only hiring committee I'm on currently is the Out on Campus Coordinator Hiring Committee. The job posting just closed on Friday, and the hiring committee met yesterday, where we shortlisted 6 candidates to progress forward with interviews. I'll be calling those candidates later today to schedule the interviews. Further, we also developed a series of interview questions, and they have been finalized and are ready for when the interviews take place. We have interviews will take place throughout the course of this week, as well as the course of next week. And we're likely to only do 1 round of interviews. So it's very likely that we could have a candidate by the end of next week, early the week following. So we are progressing quite well with the Out on Campus Coordinator Hiring Committee. And that's my updates. I'll pass it now off to Corbett if you'd like to give an update on the hiring committees that you are a member of.
Sure, I'm a member of 2 right now. The building coordinator was originally going to be part-time roles, but we've changed them to full-times with some additional duties. That is John and I will be working on fleshing that out, those new duties out, and sending around to the relevant groups to get approval as soon as we can. And I am also on the Member Services Administrative Assistance Hiring Committee. We just started doing, today and tomorrow is a whole bunch of different interviews. We're interviewing 12 or so people, and with the goal of hiring 5. And so we just started that process. So I think hope is to be done by this week and have an announcement by next week.
Awesome. Thank you, Corbett, for your update. Almas, would you like to give an update on the hiring committees that you are a member of?
Yes, sure. So we met yesterday for the Building Assistant Hiring Committee, and we had about 19 applications, of which we disqualified 3 of them because they were not either undergrads or a part of SFSS or SFU undergrads in general. And we also decided, actually not us, it's John who decided that we will not be hiring 4, but 8 building assistants. So now we've decided to interview all 16 applicants. And the interviews are taking place this Friday and next Tuesday. I think we've been able to schedule 12 people as of now, and we still have 4 more to go. So I'm guessing that by the end of next week, we should have all these people hired. And the other hiring committee that I'm on is under SFU. So I'm not sure if you guys want an update on that as well. But the interviews for that are happening on Monday, 13 September, all in one day. There are just 3 candidates, and one of them is an internal candidate. And we have like 1 backup person. So I think by the end of next week, we should also have some sort of result from that committee as well. Unless people decide to interview the backup person. That's pretty much it for my committees. And for the digital media hiring committee, the post will be closing on the 6th of September, but we've received like 7 applications as of now, and I've taken a look at all of them, added my very first comments, and I'll keep you updated on that one as we progress. And in case anything changes in terms of my availability for that committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Almas. It sounds like you have a lot of interviews coming up. Thank you for your update. Matt, would you like to give an update on any hiring committees you are a member of?
Currently, I'm not on any hiring committees.
Lucky you. Okay, cool. No worries. Thank you, Matt. Marie, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Well, a couple of like hiring committees just got finalized not long ago, but the two that are active right now, you gave a review of one of them, so I'll skip that one. The other one is the Kamc hiring committee. So ultimately, we just started our interview process. So we have 3 candidates who are going to be interviewing. 2 of them unfortunately didn't reply, so we're just going to go forward with the 3 for now. And in the meantime, we should have a candidate finalized either by the end of this week or the end of next week, just depending on what our last candidate decides on, like which interview day. So that's coming up, and that's really exciting. I know we've all been super excited about like the Kamc coordinator. So that's really about it.
Cool. Thank you, Marie. I think that's all of us. So we'll move on then to our new business for the day. And I'll start off with motion 7.1. This is titled Member Services Coordinator Surrey Hiring Committee Appointment, Swapping Employer Representatives. This was submitted by myself, and I'll read the motion now. Be it resolved to appoint Councillor Kamc to the Member Services Coordinator Surrey Hiring Committee to replace Serena Baines as an employer representative. Do I have a mover for the motion?
Marie.
Marie moves. Is there a seconder?
Matt?
Matt seconds. Thank you. I'll take a moment to explain why the swap is happening. Serena is currently on a leave of absence, and so they expressed to me the desire to have someone replace them for this hiring committee, just so that the hiring process isn't slowed down. Alongside that, ACOM approached me last week and said that if we were looking to take some of the burden off of us as executives for hiring committees, that she would be willing to sit on a hiring committee. And so it worked out perfectly insofar that ACOM can replace Serena on this hiring committee. So that is what this motion on the floor today is here reflecting. So if there are no questions or comments on this motion, then we can put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor seeking unanimous consent, if you would like to vote against or abstain, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections to the motion, it is carried unanimously. And we'll move right into our next motion, which is titled Staff Office Reallocation Power for Staff Liaison Officers. And just for simplicity's sake, I will repaste the motion in the chat. And the motion was submitted by myself, and I'll read the question. Whereas the SFSS staff office allocations were approved by a motion of the Board of Directors last year, whereas to adjust the allocation of staff offices, another motion of either the Executive Committee or Council must be passed, whereas in situations where staff need to switch offices within existing staff allocated spaces, it would be easier to delegate power to the staff liaison officers to approve this change instead of seeking approval from the entire Executive Committee and or Council. Be it resolved that the Executive Committee delegate power to the staff liaison officers to approve changes in the allocation of staff office spaces in spaces that have previously been approved as staff offices by the board of directors / council. I'll move this motion as I submitted it. Do I have a seconder?
Corbett seconds.
Corbett seconds. Thank you. So this motion might be pretty self-explanatory, but essentially all of our staff office allocations were approved by a motion of the board last year. And so because of that, if, for example, one staff member wanted to switch with another, it would actually need to come back to the executive committee for approval. And that might get a bit tedious because that's kind of a very administrative, I guess, approval, something that in my view doesn't really need to come to the executive committee each time it needs to happen. And so I brought this motion forward to delegate power to the staff liaison officer to just approve that change on their own in the event that that needs to happen. So what this motion does is it delegates power to an SLO to approve office changes within offices that are currently designated as staff spaces. So I couldn't say, for example, as a SLO, move Aisha from her current office to like a bookable space, for example, but I could move her from her current space to say Ella's current space if they both wanted to switch for whatever reason. And so it is very clear on where the SLO actually has authority to approve these office changes. It couldn't really be anywhere within the building. It's very clearly established within the current staff office allocated spaces rather. And yeah, if there's any questions or comments on the motion, I'd be happy to answer them now. Corbett, go ahead.
Yeah, no question, just add further background for this. So back last year when I developed the initial staff allocation chart, staff office allocation, when as part of the move to the new building from MBC to the sub, staff want to know where they'd be located in and such. So and I was at the time I was acting as like the liaison for the board with the relay to the move. And so after talking with different people, staff, admin and stuff, I put one together and sent it and had board approve it, because at the time we were changing our governance structure where board was more administrative focused, and it made sense to like do the initial allocation, have board approve the initial allocation. But now that we're all in the board, in the sub and stuff, it doesn't make to me it's not necessary for board, or well, now in this case council or executive, to approve small changes internally. I think it makes sense just to allocate either like the operations organizer and or the president to handle that type of thing for small changes, especially as we get new staff in or changing new roles and stuff. It's not really, yeah, it's not a big thing that needs to go in front of council or exec.
Thank you, Corbett. Any other discussion? All right, we'll put the question to a vote and seeing that the motion has been exhausted. And I'll just read the be it resolved clause one more time. Be it resolved that the executive committee delegate power to the staff liaison officers to approve changes in the allocation of staff office spaces in spaces that have previously been approved as staff offices by the board of directors and or council. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent on the motion. If you'd like to vote against or abstain, please raise your hand. This motion has been carried unanimously, seeing no objections. And we'll move to our last motion of the day. And I will copy and paste the motion again in the chat just for simplicity's sake. There it is, and I'll read the motion now. The motion is titled Supporting National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and this was submitted by the VP External and Community Affairs, Matt Provost. Whereas the Simon Fraser Student Society has supported campaigns related to the commitment of reconciliation and supporting Indigenous students. Whereas September 30th has been recognized as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Whereas for the month of September, the SFSS will commit to collaborating with relevant groups, internal and external to the society. Be it resolved to allocate up to $1,000 for relevant purchases for campaign material. Be it further resolved that these expenses be incurred from the appropriate line item or account to be determined by the VP Finance and Services. Is there a mover for the motion?
Matt?
Matt moves the motion. Is there a seconder?
Marie.
Marie seconds. All right, Matt, as the author and mover of the motion, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to put this motion forward today to kind of discuss some things that will be happening for the month in regards to September 30th, which was Orange Shirt Day, but now it's been recognized as a federal statutory holiday. So that's good news. But what I wanted to hopefully do with the exec and also community members is to have some things going on or have like at least material out. So this could be what I was thinking about, have a banner made, an orange banner, like when you walk in the sub over, you know what I'm talking about, like when you go in, there's a little walkway, like we could put a banner there and have some appropriate like things probably like around, you know, within the sub as well. And this also could be for, I know that this might go into something else, but even is mostly just for the banner and supplies. Like if we do things like later on, like in the month, like I know that ISC had like those little t-shirt like cutouts and things like that. So just for supplies, if we do anything like internal to the sub, it'll go to those expenses in relation to supporting this campaign and amplifying these messages as well. And yeah, I just thought it would be good because we've been in discussion with Indigenous Student Center, FNSA, also outreach to Office for Aboriginal People because they will be doing like a week of events. So hopefully we can have stuff circulating so we can get more students like involved when those events are happening like at the end of the month. But even if in regards to like COVID, if there's no events happening, at least we'll have stuff internal in the building or around or even online to show our commitment and support to reconciliation and also to support the Indian residential school survivors. Yeah. So if there's any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Matt. Marie, you can go ahead.
I don't have any questions, but this is really great. So thanks for bringing this forward, Matt.
Yeah, I have no questions, but I do just want to say thanks for bringing this forward, Matt. I'm really, it's great to see that September 30th has been recognized as an actual holiday and that on this day, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there isn't any classes. And so, you know, I'm just happy to see that. And if in any way that we as the SFSS can stand in solidarity on that day and the days leading and all year round, absolutely, we can, whatever we can do and yeah, just again, expressing my gratitude and my entire support. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I just kind of want to reiterate, like for the expenses of $1,000, it'll be up to $1,000 because I just wanted to make sure we had enough for a banner that could be used like every year as well. And other, if we can get a few, kind of what we have, not the stand-up ones that we have like in our offices, but like actual like banners that we can use, then we can have those up. That'll be, you know, then we don't have to make them again in the future, and then they'll probably be like put in storage. But I put up to just in case, because I don't know the, I know they're a couple $100, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to get one or two of them. And then also if any other charges are incurred for other materials that we may need for stuff that comes up. But I will budget that out and work with Almus and Corbett to kind of get that part organized.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any other questions or comments to be made on the motion by members of the executive committee? Alice in the chat says, sounds great. And Corbett says, looks good to me. Okay, well, we'll put the question to a vote at this time. And so the be it resolved clauses reads, be it resolved to allocate up to $1,000 for relevant purchases for campaign material. Be it further resolved that these expenses be incurred from the appropriate line item or account to be determined by the VP Finance and Services. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent, if you would like to vote against or abstain, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections to the motion, it is carried unanimously. This concludes the section of our agenda, new business, and we'll move now into our discussion items. First of which is 8.1, COVID-19 Delta variant, and this was submitted by the VP Internal and Organizational Development, Corbett Gildersleeve. Corbett, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, 1 second, just bringing up the agenda again. So yeah, as you know, this Delta has been going up. Just looking at the numbers this weekend, or sorry, looking at yesterday's reports over the weekend, it was 700 and something, and then run down to 500 something. It's basically averaging about 600 a day. It looks like the interior stuff has started to plateau, the interior counts, but like our area has been starting to go up again. So we've already made some decisions related to the guidelines and stuff for bookings and such in the sub with, the rooms won't be bookable for the least first month or so. Till at least probably October. And we've already, there's new mask mandates coming in, the vaccine stuff. So I guess it's just more like discussion as, is there anything else we should be doing? Is there anything we should be pushing SFU on? Just a kind of overall discussion on the Delta variant and how it's impacting, how we think it'll impact us, what we can do to support our members.
Thank you, Corbett, for bringing forward this discussion. It looks like Marie is on the speakers list first.
Yeah. I guess this comes from a place of like wanting to understand more just because I have been on a leave of absence, but also like staying updated with like what's happening online. So at least from what I've seen, there's been a requirement for masks and vaccines. I'm unsure of what's been coming forward for classes specifically. I've been hearing from students that a lot of professors are like taking it upon themselves to make their classes online again, which just sucks. Like, all professors should feel like they're also prepared to go into like the semester and not have everything be like last minute or late notice, which is definitely the responsibility of the university. And we've been like saying this at JOG meetings since like day one at the start of the summer, that we need a hybrid model, or we need some form of like online anything because of the variants. So in general, I'm really frustrated with just like the lack of action or like the delayed action, because in general, it puts not only students in a bad position, it puts professors in a bad position. And then we have like to take the onus of like literally just like picking up the like little bits and pieces last minute. It's a pandemic, like people are already stressed, like this is even more stress and anxiety on top of them. So I think like the biggest thing that I want to know is if they're actually going to fully go online or not. Is there like going to be a hybrid model? Are things going to be a little bit more easier for like students to actually decide if like things are online? For instance, I have family who are very much so at risk. like, what does that mean for me if I'm going to class and I'm putting my family at risk as well because my professor decided that they want an in-person class? So I think the biggest thing is we really need to be pushing them on either an online or a hybrid model, or make really clear public, um, you know, adjustments or exceptions on what can be done for students in this case. Because I feel like everything's really hush hush, and it's like only if you decide to go talk to your professor, which, accessibility level is not the case that everyone can just do that.
Thank you, Marie. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, especially in regards to like what has been happening with COVID, it's been pretty, there's even been some other universities that have shifted to online learning. Just even here, UBC Okanagan program, like they shifted online like yesterday, like very last minute. The University of Calgary, and I know that there's a couple other universities that have done that, which has been like good, but even that, like that's not even far in advance. Like students have already made the accommodations to come back, and I don't want that, and I'm not sure how that's going to look because with COVID cases going up, like from what we've heard, I don't feel very confident, but SFU feels pretty confident in their return to campus, even though that's still up in the air. Like we've heard that there will be some form of screening, some form of like declaration, and it's just like, there are issues with those, and I just think that there needs to be more transparency in regard to like what we know and how we communicate that, especially like it is up to the faculty and like the department internally, like how they run their own classes, but there's nothing that allows for like students to even, like you said, know unless they check in, or if it's like stated by their prof, or whether they find out the first day of classes next week and like we're only a week out, which I find really concerning. And a lot of stuff is still up in the air. Like we didn't even know about this declaration or like any of these health changes up until last week. So everybody's scrambling, and with the last minute changes, it really impacts like students' ability to feel focused or feel confident in their semester, or how they're going to feel safe on campus. And even like, with the carding and the vaccines, like there's so many moving parts that it complicates a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Marie, go ahead again.
I also just wanted to add like the inconsistency on the end of the university, whereas so where we were online and in person, we didn't even have as many cases at some points, where we're coming to a point where, our cases are going up really high, with a variant that, is affecting people clearly. It's just really worrisome when like the university is not being consistent with like what they were even doing before, and have like a sense of confidence in something that, is not 100% like, oh, like that we're like 100% like understand. So I'm just kind of worried about that in general, and I'm worried about like their level of confidence, and like what they would do if like we did have an outburst at SFU. Like what are they going to say? What are they going to do? What's going to happen? And if that happens, like that may be like first week of like school, second week of school, and again we're putting like professors and students in a horrible position, with even more increasing anxiety, especially for people who like are working on campus or people who are living on campus. So yeah.
Do you want to know how I see this? I've been thinking about this a lot. And you know how when you get assigned a term paper and it's like 2 weeks before the due date and you're like, I got to start this. And then you wait until like the day before and you're like scrambling to finish it at the last minute. You procrastinated, you kind of put forward this paper that's not really your best work. And if you started like 2 weeks earlier, it would have been like the best paper in the world. Yeah, I kind of feel like that's what's happening with the universities and generally the province's COVID-19 response. I am really fed up with the fact that we knew months ago that Delta was a threat, that we knew that even among vaccinated populations that it posed a threat, that there would be a fourth wave at some point, that it would impact our return to campus plans. I'm frustrated that those calls to action were not heard months ago. And now, again, we're how many days? 8 days away from the start of campus and all this new stuff is coming out. As Matt said, it's really impacting students' confidence in returning back to campus. When the whole idea of a return to campus was kind of in its height, I think it was during the third wave, and everyone was scrambling and like, how could we possibly think about coming back to campus? There's like 800 cases a day. I think there was like 1,200 cases a day at one point. And we were kind of told like, you're thinking about it wrong. You're thinking about it as if we were returning today. And then COVID cases kind of dipped. It was like 30 cases a day. We were like, yeah, I'm kind of confident. And then the spike came back. And so, you know, and with the new things that came in last week, the mask mandate on Monday, no, sorry, the vaccine passport mandate on Monday and the mask mandate on Tuesday. I mean, I applaud those efforts, but I don't think they go far enough. I'm happy to see that there's a mask mandate in place. That's good. I think that's a step in the right direction. I'm happy to see the BC vaccine card system in place, even though I disagree with one very big aspect of it, and that's that immunocompromised and other people otherwise medically exempt from getting a vaccine are not able to attend discretionary events. But I'm really disheartened by the fact that vaccines are not required to sit in a lecture hall. I'm upset that, you know, the province has not so-called given power to universities to mandate vaccines for students. Matt and I had a short conversation with Joy Johnson when she was here in the Student Union building the other day. And she said to us that, I guess to back up here a little bit, I think that it should be the job of the university to be pressuring the government to make universities as safe as possible, using the tools that we know are effective at curbing the spread of COVID-19. And by giving universities the power to mandate vaccines for students, I mean, for staff and faculty, but not students, was really disheartening to see. That's kind of when universities should step up to push back against that. Joy Johnson is of the opinion that students should have the choice to get vaccinated, which I am fully not in agreement with. I believe the vaccine should be required and that the university should be making as big of a push as possible to make vaccines accessible as accessible as possible. And we're kind of already seeing that. We know that vaccine clinics are coming to universities. And so there are a couple of big things that I still think we should be pushing SFU on. To summarize my big, large rant here is one, mandatory vaccines for classes. Staff and faculty should be vaccinated as well. And that we should be considering hybrid forms of education once again. So people who are comfortable coming in person can, but people who cannot for whatever reason do not have to. And they will not be penalized for not attending in person. And I also think that we should start looking at decreasing capacity limits once again. I mean, I don't think people are ready, nor is it wise to be in a lecture hall of 300 people. Anyway, that's that. I do have a couple of other things to say on the Student Union building and how it kind of impacts us as an organization, but I'll take a break now if anyone else wants to bring any other discussion points into on this matter.
I guess my question is kind of like, how do we go from here? Like with 8 days away from class? because you know, like Gabe, we have been bringing this up month and month over again at JOG. Like we have literally, I've been asking it in the most awkward settings ever, like where I can clearly tell people do not want to hear this, people want to ignore this. I've been bringing it up and saying we need a hybrid model, we need adjustments or accommodations. We've talked to Cal, we've talked to, you know, like student services, we've talked to everyone at JOG. Um, Clearly you folks have talked to the president. Like we keep pleading and pushing for this and it seems like it's ignored time and time again. We've seen online campaigns from faculty, we've seen online campaigns from students, and we've heard like their concerns. We've seen it at the, you know, grad student town hall where they asked about safety measures that were coming about and the response was, oh, we hope that COVID is not a thing in fall when fall comes. So, like, how much longer is this ignorance about the presence of COVID going to go on? And, like, what do we do about it? I feel like we've pushed so much.
Yeah, you know where I honestly see this going is that it's going to get so bad that they're going to not be able to ignore it anymore, and by that point it's going to be too late. That's what I really fear. And so, I mean, we need to, I guess, brainstorm ways that we can escalate further. I mean, we need to make our concerns heard. Maybe that includes starting some kind of online campaign, putting out a press release, trying to get some media presence, because obviously the pressure we're trying to put on from within the system is not working. So we need to start going external. And I mean, personally, I've been on, like, last week I was on CBC News Radio, Global News, and CKNW talking about how, I was about to say something I probably shouldn't say in a meeting, but how screwed up this whole response to the increase in COVID has been. A campaign outside our office, yeah, honestly. So yeah, the answer to your question, Marie, is I don't know, but we need to start brainstorming ways that we can escalate this, because honestly, it's likely not to happen before the start of classes. I feel like we need to accept that all of these things that we're asking for are not going to happen before the first day of classes, but we can at least push for it so that, you know, if COVID gets worse, which it likely is too, we can at least get this maybe a month down the road or something. Of course, that's not ideal, but we need to push for whatever we can get, however we can get it. So I mean, maybe something we can do is, as an executive committee, we can work on a press release of some kind to put out expressing all of our concerns with the return to campus thus far. We can maybe get some communications material out to have some kind of social media presence on this. Yeah. I guess pivoting a little bit now, still on the topic of COVID though, looking at the student union building itself, I think we've been taking a much more cautious approach to opening this building than SFU has been the entire campus. But right now, I mean, so thinking of the safety measures we have in place right now, number one, people have to wear masks to come into the building. Number two, we are not opening bookable spaces until at least the end of October, waiting for more to see where COVID cases go and how the implementation of the BC vaccine card system is going to work. We have extended the in-person event guidelines, which allow people to have events outside of the sub with some certain restrictions, such as a capacity limit of 25, masks are required, all of that jazz. I'm just trying to think of anything else that we could be doing as an organization within the student union building to be more cognizant of the rise in COVID cases. Or maybe there isn't anything else that we can do because we've taken a pretty cautious approach to this. Okay, so just backing up, I suppose. No, not backing up because Marie has something to say. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to affirm what you're saying. I think we've taken a pretty strong approach, and like really kept even our staff in mind and giving them that option to be in person or not. And in general, I don't really know what more we can do, but I know like what we've been doing has been an extent to what the recommendations have been. So, but I'm always happy to like review them and go back on them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Marie. Okay, so at this time, would anyone be willing to, usually this is something probably like Serena and I would work on, but maybe, but Serena's on a leave. Would anyone be interested in working on a short press release to put out on this topic? Cool, Matt and Marie. So maybe we can schedule like a 1-hour session or something where we could just bang this out. And Matt, you and I still need to work on a press release for something else, but I think we're gonna maybe talk about that next. So we'll move on then now to our discussion item 8.2, which is on federal elections. And this was submitted by VP External and Community Affairs, Matt Provost. You have the floor, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, so just a couple updates on what's going on. As you know, the federal elections have been called. We have comms material prepped and ready to go, and we just got our approval of our application on Thursday or Friday, I believe. So hopefully our comms material goes out today, some of it at least. I messaged Ilham, so whenever that gets sent out, you'll see it. So just remember to share it. And also like remind people to register to vote and things like that early, because I believe voting it's done on the 20th. So it's pretty quick. We only have like under a month now, but with that, I'm working with External and Community Affairs in the next couple weeks, hopefully like with the first week of classes and things like that. One thing, we can't incentivize to vote because we're nonpartisan or anything like that, but we can remind folks to vote, even if, and I'll be making some more comms material to have like in the sub, and also I'll go around the university and go poster, just so that we have QR links and QR codes so that folks can just scan, and then it'll just take them to a thing to go register to vote, and also put up information for I guess polling stations in the area, because one thing, they're not having polling stations on campus. So that's an issue. So, and also with Corbett also brought up to me that he lives on residence, and the type of address or something that they have, Elections Canada doesn't recognize that address. So students in res are going to have issues getting mail-in ballots unless if they go to the polling station. So we're going to figure something out. And so one thing that I wanted to work on, hopefully get it done by Wednesday or Thursday, is a press release on the topic of getting, you know, why we don't have polling stations, or the inaccessibility for our voting block, like our age demographic, to vote, especially on campus. Because what I've heard is like, you know, the reason why a lot of students vote on campus is because of the accessible polling stations. So that's something that I wanted to discuss. The only thing that we can kind of do right now is just make sure that we circulate the comms material, and then when classes start, I'm going to go up early and start postering a little bit around campus and like within the sub, and put them like in locations where people can kind of see. And then from there, working with ECA, I think we're going to have a little table up in the front of the sub when people walk in, just saying like, oh, like, have you registered to vote? Things like that. And just giving them information on like why it's important, why we need people to vote, and hopefully just getting people to share that and let folks know. So that's something that we'll be doing. And then hopefully later on, like just a week before, or like a couple of days before everything is kind of done, sending out like an email to students saying like, hey, if you didn't know, like this is the last day, like go to these polling stations that are like in the area. And that's kind of what I have like right now. Other than that, that's kind of like my update like on the federal election. If anyone has any questions, yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Matt, for all your work on this. I just wanted to jump in on the topic of no polling stations on university campuses. I have been like taking to Twitter about this and like ranting about it hard, because I think that like I'm not using this term to hyperbolize the gravity of the situation, but it is literally voter suppression. The fact that they are not putting voting stations on campus. And what Elections Canada has said about that they gave two reasons which don't make any sense to me, and I'm still yet to receive clarification on. But one is that it's due to the pandemic, and two, because of the minority government situation. So, you know, first of all, I don't really understand, you know, maybe if it's a short staffing situation, I understand that, maybe, but I don't really understand how the pandemic affects, you know, making voting accessible to people on campuses, especially when it's been done for many elections. And two, how does a minority government impact Elections Canada, which is supposed to be an independent, nonpartisan organization to run federal elections? I mean, like, it does not make sense to me. Matt, if you would like to respond to that.
Yeah, and in regards to that, like with polling stations, like they're going to be having other polling stations like in the area. So cutting out other polling stations where, you know, most students like will be, like, then they should have just made everything mail-in ballot if they were worried about COVID numbers or like pandemic or anything like that, because it's not going to make a difference if you have an influx of people going to other off-campus polling stations. If anything, I feel like it would be like a little bit easier because you're not having more and more people congregate in other spaces and making folks travel and putting more people at risk if they're already at school. So those are just things that like I would like note, and hopefully, you know, even just having a polling station on res, like for those students, because like that's something that's going to be an issue, because that's over 1,000 students who'd be eligible to vote who won't be able to vote if their addresses aren't recognized.
Yeah. Marie, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw your whole shebang on Twitter, Gabe. Shout out. That was good. But yeah, I'm actually really worried about this because I feel like there hasn't been even appropriate measures given to for people to just vote in general. Like if you take something away from campus that's like typically a regular thing, you should come forth with at least a better alternative that's more accessible. However, clearly even mail-in ballots are not an option for people on res, so people have to go almost out of their way to vote. So in the first place, it's horrible because, you know, we need younger folks to be more involved in elections and more involved in voting, and this is taking that away as well. You know, people are going to be in classes, things are going to get busy for them, and people need to go out of their way to just go and vote. Like, it's not realistic. So I'm kind of worried about that actually. It seems really unfair. Um, yeah, and additionally, I wanted to say, like, thanks, Matt, again, for like all your hard work and your labor. And if we need like volunteers or anything to like help with like putting things around, I know there's a couple people who are really interested who have reached out to me, who are really interested in helping with like anything. So just let me know. Yeah.
Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, another thing that I want to know, even with mail-in ballot, there's been issues with that as well. Like if you want a mail-in ballot, you need to register now, because there won't be any accommodations made if it's not like mailed in time, which is an issue as well. So and I registered for mine like as soon as I could, and I still haven't received my mail-in ballot. And also just making it known that like you don't have to vote on like election day. You can vote anytime in between like the period that it's called and also like the 20th. So I don't think some folks like know that as well. And another thing in regards to, we're going to be having a working session specifically for federal elections next week at there was supposed to be a dev session today, but I canceled it just because I didn't receive like a lot of feedback and I wanted more people there. But next week we're going to be having a working session in the last part of our meeting specifically for federal elections to organize the folks on ECA who's comfortable, who can come up for the first week, and then also delegating just to like share things and make sure everyone's on the same page with our comms material. And if there's any other things that come out of there, I think it would be good to also bring this up like at council, and so that we delegate all the departmental student unions to like either let their own membership know, so everyone's kind of aware of what's going on.
Thank you, Matt. Any other discussion on the topic of federal elections? Is everyone keeping up with the election? Yep. Cool. Okay, thank you, Matt, for bringing this forward. And just, I guess, double checking some action items maybe. One is that we should work on a press release on the topic of on-campus polling stations, and also bringing some of this discussion we had today to council. Does that sound accurate? Okay. So we can schedule that hopefully for sometime tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is kind of crazy for me, but maybe on Thursday we can work on that. Matt, it looks like you have the next discussion item too, which is 8.3, BC Budget 2021. And this was submitted by the VP External and Community Affairs, Matt Provost.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to update folks. We did have some, myself, Gabe, I believe Serena and Ella were working on some proposals for the BC provincial budget, and I don't know where that is, what is happening. So like, just to kind of catch up, like there were supposed to be some things in line. I know that we tried to apply to get like a presentation because everything is like virtual. So there was, I believe it was backed up what we did, wanted to do that presentation in terms of just submitting like some asks. I wanted to see if there was anything else that folks had like questions on, or like if Gabe, if you had any updates about this, or like how we should pick this back up, or when the deadline should be for this.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, as you indicated, Matt, we were put on a wait list for presentations. There are, however, a number of other avenues that we can submit our asks. I believe, for example, we could do like a video. We could also do I believe we could just submit it like in a document or like some kind of report. I would need to double check when those deadlines are, but those are some alternatives that we can do in terms of submitting asks for the budget. That's about it for me. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think it might be good just to kind of, at our next executive meeting, if we could just get those deadlines and maybe have a short, like some briefs set for the provincial budget, because I believe I have the report from last year. So I'll look at that again. And if there's anything that's changed, like in terms of our asks or where we want, because this is our input basically on how we want the provincial government to like spend their budget. So these are like some pretty good things that we could submit information on. I can look back at what myself, Gabe, and Ella and Serena kind of had ideas around, but if we want to really flesh those out, we could submit it to exec to review. And then if folks have other input, then we can just get a comms department to make it into like a nice document and then send it in. And then we could also submit it on our website and let folks know that this is what we asked the province to spend their provincial budget on.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Did anyone have any questions on budget 2021? Okie dokie. Thank you, Matt. The next item is 8.4, annual general meeting, and this was submitted by the VP Internal and Organizational Development, Corbett Gildersleeve, but Corbett has left early. So it looks like we will have to skip this item for now and move on to, unless anyone wanted to discuss it, and it looks like there is. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of wanted just to let folks know that in terms of the annual general meeting, it's also been on my mind because I helped a little bit last year with this, but just to keep in mind, it does get really busy. And there are some things that I know Corbett will take care about, but just everybody should be prioritizing like a little bit of time because execs will be working on this. I did have the script and everything else from last year, also the report from last year, and any other documents in regards to the digital campaign, and I shared that with Corbett. So maybe we should also add this as discussion items for like our next exec meeting, or also put this in our exec working session so that we could kind of start fleshing some of the stuff out just on like, because we need to start making a timeline for the day, because pretty much we need to start having comms material out by end of September. And also to think about, do we still want it online, or do we still want it like in person? Do we want it hybrid? Like, these are things that we're going to have to discuss, which will take like a lot of planning. So I just want to let folks know that this is some things that we need to start thinking about, because this is a pretty heavy item and I don't want to be scrambling like last minute and things like that. I want to make sure that we're not like stressing out, especially like with classes coming up and our semesters and things like that. This is also relatively around midterms, and that's it's around midterms in that area. So that's something, to keep in mind as well. So we want to make it as easy as possible for folks. So those are just kind of my updates and stuff from last year that I've been thinking about for annual general meeting.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, I will just echo some of what you were saying, Matt, in that AGM is probably one of the busiest times we will all experience as executive committee members during our terms. And so it'll likely be the, if not one of the largest focuses of the fall term. And so it's one of those things where we all need to pitch in and to be all on the same page. And so yeah, sorry, I don't know why I said and so. That was the end of my that was the end of my sentence. But yeah, thank you, Matt, for emphasizing that. Okay, if there's no questions, then Matt, you have our last discussion item as well, which is titled Sub-Programming during the month of September.
Nice. So that's something that I'm kind of excited about, just kind of networking with folks. This is also something that I wanted to bring up, but we'll probably be coordinating like with Jess or whoever else, like with the group. So with the soft opening last week, I thought that was pretty, it was really great, and it was good to see folks like in the building, actually have students, and see people, like seeing the constituency groups like in their spaces was really nice. So I think for the programming during the month of September, some ideas that I have would be to coordinate with the folks, the rotunda groups, which are now the subgroups, and letting them know like within the first couple of weeks, kind of be doing like tabling. So having a table like outside of their like space, so that when students walk through, they can kind of give like, a rundown, or let folks know like what is going on, who they are, and maybe having it on different days, and also coordinating with the actual groups like in there. So like I already talked to Jesse and Magnus from CJSF, and we're going to be having we're going to be doing like a radio like interview with them, going over the soft sub opening and also like coordinating with them. It's really nice because now instead of running all the way to the rotunda on the second floor, we just have to go down the elevator and go talk to them, or they could just come upstairs. So it's a very different dynamic, and also working with them and making sure that, you know, we're checking in, like that they, how are they doing? What kind of programs do they want to run through through September? But also just to make that aware that with the sub opening, we want to make sure that students know like what else is going on, and you know, hopefully having like a day, like the first week will be like a welcome, and then second week, like we can have like if there's tours, like if Corbett or John are doing tours, just a schedule with the constituency groups that like, you know, maybe they will be waiting to have a table outside or something like that, to coordinate with them as well, so that someone is there and they can also introduce their own space instead of like an exec or like someone else to introduce their space. Just being mindful of that because they're probably just as excited to show students as well. So those are just some things that I've been thinking about for September. If anyone else has any ideas, I think it would be good to, you know, make it really engaging. And even though, you know, we're in COVID and there's some weird stuff going on, like, and we were talking about like student confidence, like feeling safe on campus. Like, I hope that even though the university may not be doing a good job, at least we can like ensure that we're doing our best to keep students safe and still making it like an enjoyable place to be, like while they're here, you know, while we're still opening and returning to campus.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. If anyone wants to jump in on this discussion, the floor is open. You know, I think we should, one thing we should look into doing, and I think you kind of touched on it, Matt, is like scheduling tours where people can just like come and drop in and we can show them around the building, kind of give them context. And we can also work with like the constituency groups to kind of organize that as well. I think it might even be worth, like we could set something up where we like get together and brainstorm things that we could do together in the building during the month of September. Because I'm sure there's like so many events or like just like programming that we could even support and help them amplify and hold not only in their spaces, but, you know, anywhere in the building. I think that would be really cool. It would be a really cool opportunity for like collaboration. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it would be good too to work like with, because the radio is super accessible. Like Magnus and Jesse are always like really stoked to like work with folks. If all of us could come in or schedule a time with Jesse to kind of do like our own welcome to the building, like as execs, then they'll just like play it as like a short clip, like in between their sessions. So Gabe could do one, and then everybody else can have one too, and just introducing yourself and just saying, oh, like come in to the sub, it's open now. And we can give an example of something like that, and then Jesse will just have those recordings and edit them, and then they'll just be playing on the radio like consistently between all of us. I think that would be good.
I'm down.
Cool. Okay, well, Matt, sounds like a to be continued and to be worked on. Oh, Matt, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, sure. I think it would be good if, and the nice thing is like Marie, like when you go up there, it's so much different than working like remotely. Like you can just go downstairs and say like, oh, like, are you available this time, or can we schedule this? And then they're like, yeah, or we can do it right now. And it's like, okay, cool. And then you can just go in. So I think it's a very different dynamic than working online. And I think what myself and Gabe and Corbett have been noticing, like even I know Corbett's been on the board before, but like for me, I'm relearning how to do my role in an in-person role. So, you know, when you get to go talk to people or plan things. So I think we can schedule time slots. It might be nice, even like if folks do make time to go to the building to say, hey, look, we were talking about this in our meeting. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll keep you updated on, you know, what we're going to be doing for like student tours and stuff like that. I actually think it might be good if we could touch base with all of them. This might be something either Gabe or Corbett could do. But to have an email list for all the constituency groups that are in the sub right now. So if we are doing tours, then we could just send an email out to the list, and whoever is available at that time, oh, like get your, like, we're going to be doing a tour this time. If you can get your table ready, we'll be having students come by. So, oh, we do? Oh, nice. For all attendance. Okay. Is there one for specifically for like the student groups, like just on the first floor and then like out on campus and like women's center, or even if they don't have a table, like just like, oh, like, can you make sure someone's there? So that when we come by, we'll be coming by at this time. Yeah. So like, I think that would be good. Just if we are having tours, it might be beneficial. If you're doing a tour, Gabe or Corbett or John or Shelly, then they can just send out a quick email and say, hey, this is scheduled, make sure someone's there, so that we come by, they can check out the space.
Cool. Yeah, Matt, that's a really simple thing we can do. Like a CG mail list. Cool. Cool. Anything else on this topic? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you listen? I didn't see it. Go ahead.
I literally don't know why that was capped. Sorry. I wrote it so fast. Okay, sorry, Matt. Can you just reiterate, like, when should we go in for like them to record, or like, is it just like whenever kind of thing?
Oh yeah, like I just went downstairs to go talk, and then like Jesse was like, yeah, I'll just come up. I was like, okay, let's come up on Wednesday sometime, I'll be there. And he was like, and you can just go down there too, like even like for as execs, might be getting like a little bit off topic, but even just like for programming or anything, I think it's important, especially in the sub, you know, to go down and start introducing yourself to people, and even just stopping by and going to hang out in there or talking like with folks, or even if there is anything about your role that you want to do with like the radio, or talk about what you've done or things like that. Like that's something we haven't done. Like I've never seen like execs go into CGSF and you know, go talk about like what they're doing or things like that. And it's so much simpler now, because if they want to do like monthly updates or recaps, kind of like how the peak does it at our meetings, then we can go down and say, oh, like this motion was passed, or like this is what we're doing at council. And I think that would be good to just make it a habit, like at the end of the month, like if one exec volunteers, or even like our AVP, to kind of go down like, oh, these are like really important motions that we passed. These are letters that are being circulated right now, and just kind of make that like our normal programming. I think it'll be easier because everyone's in the same spot, and they just come up with their recorder and record what we're doing. They edit it and put it together like we're being like interviewed. And I think that'll be really helpful to kind of just make that space for us to share like more broadly, like what's going on with the SFSS, or at least at our meetings and things like that.
Love it.
Cool, cool. It's gonna be a good time. Okay. So it looks like that concludes our discussion items for today. We'll move into announcements, and the first announcement is 10.1. So we have a new, well, not really a new, but we have an established meeting time for a tentative established meeting time for fall 2021 for the executive committee. So they will be bi-weekly on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Starting next week. So we will also have an executive committee meeting next week, and then they will be bi-weekly from there. On weeks that we don't have an official exec meeting, we will have executive committee development sessions, as we have been doing all summer semester. Okay, let's move to adjournment now. And be it resolved to adjourn the meeting at 11:39 a.m. Is there a mover?
Matt.
Matt? Is there a seconder?
Marie.
Marie? Okay, all those in favor, seeking unanimous consent. Okay, this is carried. Let me stop the recording now.